right, here we go. This is HBR News number 535. Rest in peace, Scott Adams. UK teaches a 3-year-old children about toxic masculinity, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this insanity so that you're not consumed by it. I'm your host, Brian, and I'm joined by, as always, my lovely co-hosts, Dr. Randercam and Hannah Wallen. You know, I still really want to say Mike J, even though he hasn't been on the show for a while. It's just sort of like a near Freudian slip, so that's why there's a bit of a pause. I get hung up there. I mean, I wish Mike J would come back because I made him a talking avatar and everything, but it's okay.
He's still on the show in spirit.
Yeah, he does the write-ups.
He occasionally writes a write-up.
Yeah. He's just gotten busy with taking care of his family and stuff, and that's cool. All right, but anyway, we have a great show lined up for you guys this week, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comment section. On this week's HBR News, we're going to be talking about the fallout of this whole, Renee Good incident and what seems to be a never-ending, constant pileup of shit on top of lies on top of shit. We'll be talking about some news of various prime ministers, Kier Starmer and the Prime Minister of Canada, Carney, as well as the Australian guy whose name I can't remember.
Anthony Albanese.
But what?
Anthony Albanese.
Albanese, yes. And they're basically going to try and get X banned because it harms women. And I'll get into that in a second. The United States.
I've seen this one before. Maddest about that?
Huh?
You know who's going to be maddest about X getting banned?
Yeah.
Women.
Yeah, the women are going to be the most mad, right? The United States pulls out of UN Women and other organizations and more. So stick around. It's going to be a good time. And there is a lot more. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So you might be looking at this on the screen saying, what is this? I found a game online, guys, that you can play for free. It was put out by a UK organization called Prevent, and it is free to play for anybody. It's called Pathways, and it's about navigating gaming, the internet, and extremism. So we're going to be going into this game in the patron show. And it's been doing the rounds, but I just want to say that I was the first person probably to cover it, but nobody knows because I'm not known. But I did play this on my channel, Honey Badger Arcade, on Saturday morning, and we had a good time laughing at it. So we're gonna do it again for the patrons today. So if you want to hang out with us while we play through this game and learn about how we can avoid becoming extremists. Because that's important. You know, we wouldn't want to be more like what we are. Please join us by becoming a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe to become a member. $5 a month will get you into our Discord server where you'll be able to watch all of the additional content and hang out with our lovely patrons and all of the other denizens over at the Honey Badger Radio Discord. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we've been yeeted from the internet because of our bad thoughts, our bad speak, our radical extremism that we got from failing at Pathways, then go to badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com to find where all of our content lives when we are dead. So you can it's like a giant eulogy of content so that we never die. We'll stay on the internet forever, even after we're gone. So that's badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com to find where all of our content lives. And I want to give a quick holler out to the folks that are watching before I get into the stories. So hello to David Lowboy, Oikophobic Misanthrope, Yagu Kuno, Matt Watton, Quantum Cat, Gin Bottle, Mr. 0303, and Shadow Wolf. Welcome everybody to the show, and I hope that I will see more of you guys trickle in as we go. All right, so now let us get into today's stories. Scott Adams in the news, the creator of the iconic Dilbert comic strip that satirized corporate life and became a cultural phenomenon in the 1990s, passed away on January 13th, that is today, 2026, at the age of 68 after a long battle with metastatic prostate cancer. Diagnosed in 2025.
It wasn't a long battle. It was a battle with turbo cancer.
Yeah, it was a battle with turbo cancer, yes. Diagnosed in 2025, the cancer had spread to his bones, leading to paralysis below the waist, heart failure, and a grim prognosis he shared publicly in early January, stating his recovery odds were essentially zero, and January would likely be a month of transition. He put that in quotes. His ex-wife, Shelley Miles, announced the news during a live stream of his long-running show, Real Coffee with Scott Adams. Reading a poignant final message he wrote on New Year's Day, quote, "I had an amazing life. I gave it everything I had. Please know I loved you all to the very end," end quote. Adams continued engaging fans via streams until near the end, and he even reportedly dedicated his life to Jesus Christ in his final days.
I think that was a joke. Scott Adams liked to joke about stuff, and I think he was playing Pascal's wager at that point. Yeah, you may have read.
I do know, yeah.
Yeah, and he was probably just going, yeah. I give my life to Jesus, just to see what's going to happen. Like I would do that as well if I was on the way out. Yeah, sure. Yeah, hi Jesus. Yeah. What have I got?
Fair enough.
Let's fucking go. but I might be wrong. Maybe he really did, like, finally believe in Jesus.
It's true. So anyway, yeah, that I mean, we knew it was coming. We talked about it on the show when he was diagnosed, and we knew that he didn't have a lot of time. He did live longer than we thought. He said that he basically originally thought he was going to be gone in the fall, so he did manage to get through all of the fall and even some of the winter, made it into 2026. But that doesn't make it any easier. So I don't know what you guys' thoughts are, but I will cede the floor.
Yeah, I didn't see the news until right before the show, and I followed him, and I didn't get to always see everything he said, but he was an interesting guy with a lot of interesting things to say, and even though I didn't agree with everything, like it was neat to learn past the job that everybody saw him do originally. In the comic that he created was iconic, and I think he really kind of understood what it's like to work in a corporate environment. Even if you're not in an office, it's the same. This guy spouted a lot of truth, and it really does suck that this happened to him. Like it's cancer always seems to hit the people that deserve it the least, and you never hear about it going after the Hitlers of the world. It's always some guy who spread a lot of truth and touched a lot of hearts.
Well, Joe Biden still has cancer and he hasn't fucking died.
Yeah, he's still around, and he'll probably, most of the time when somebody gets prostate cancer, it's not this type, and there's a chance to do something about it. You get a chance to treat it. Obviously, the older you are, the narrower your chances of survival are because your body is not as good at recovering. But sure, we're not the only creators that are mourning Mr. Adams. In fact, he's probably got some pretty famous mourners. Yeah, it's not fair, and it sucks. And guys, don't put it off if something doesn't feel right. Get checked out, because if it is turbo cancer, you have a very small window, and he missed his, and it's not fair.
Should we do some quotes, ladies and gentlemen? All right. Quote, "The best things in life are silly," end quote. True. Very true. Good way to live your life.
True.
Quote, if a job's worth doing, it's too hard. Not true, but not necessarily true, but yeah, quite funny. Quote, I get mail, therefore I am. Sounds like a joke. Sounds like a joke, but I get what he's saying. You know you've become an adult when you dread getting mail because it's almost never good news once you're an adult.
Well, there's another part to that for people outside the U.S. If you are in the U.S., if you're in some states like in Ohio, if you move and you're going to vote in a different district than your old district, and even though you've notified them and everything, you have to bring your ID and a piece of mail that has to come from like a utility or the government, and so that might be part of what contributed to that one.
All right. Quote, the world is like a reverse casino. In a casino, if you gamble long enough, you're certainly going to lose. But in the real world, where the only thing you're gambling is, say, your time or your embarrassment, then the more stuff you do, the more you give luck a chance to find you. End quote. Yeah. Good advice. Quote, I try to avoid giving advice. Oh, okay, fair enough. Quote, beware of advice about successful people and their methods. For starters, no two situations are alike. Your dreams of creating a dry cleaning empire won't be helped by knowing that Thomas Edison liked to take naps. End quote. All right, don't belabor the point, Scott. We got it. All right. Quote, women are treated differently by society for exactly the same reason that children and the mentally handicapped are treated differently. End quote.
Yes, that is true.
I knew he was based, but I didn't know he was that based. Golf clap for you, sir. Quote, you don't argue with a 4-year-old about why he shouldn't eat candy for dinner. You don't punch a mentally handicapped guy even if he punches you first. And you don't argue when a woman tells you she's only making 80 cents to your dollar. It's the path of least resistance. You save your energy for more important battles. End quote. Respectfully, Mr. Adams, I think that might be the most important battle. But we can agree to disagree. Quote, normal people believe that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Engineers believe that if it ain't broke, it doesn't have enough features yet. Everyone's got a joke about engineers. The only engineers I've worked with have been sound engineers, and can confirm that they are the well done steak orderers of the sonic world. Let it lie, man. Let it lie. Quote, there are very few personal problems that cannot be solved through a suitable application of high explosives. End quote. I lolled. I included that one because I lolled. Quote, one way to compensate for a tiny brain is to pretend to be dead. End quote. Again, I lolled. I don't quite know why, but I did lol. Quote, if there are no stupid questions, then what kind of questions do stupid people ask? Do they get smart just in time to ask questions? End quote. Yes. Truly stupid people don't ask questions at all. You tell them it's safe and effective, and they just believe you, even when they're dying in agony. Sad but true. Quote, scientists will eventually stop flailing around with solar power and focus their efforts on harnessing the only truly unlimited source of energy on the planet, stupidity. I predict that in the future, scientists will learn how to convert stupidity into clean fuel. End quote. Would that it were, Mr. Adams, would that it were. But I think that might break the second law of thermodynamics. The best the scientists can do is use people's stupidity to reduce the carbon that is them. And it really sucks that you got caught up in it, Scott. It is what it is. And finally, quote, remember, there's no such thing as a small act of kindness. Every act creates a ripple with no logical end. That's quite sweet and quite true. And conversely, if people hate you and want you to die, you should probably stay the hell away from them. and you should stay away from their biochemical warfare. Obvious truth is obvious. So yeah, thank you, Mr. Adams, for a lifetime of simple, obvious truths. We need them now more than ever. Let us digest them together in your honor. Rip. A toast, I say, and a drink, I drink.
There's one more quote that you missed that I think was very popular. I think it goes something like, "Stay the hell away from black people."
I did allude to that just now.
I'm kidding. I mean, kind of, but it is a quote, and it is well known.
True.
Anyway, I don't mean to make light of his passing or anything like that. I think that he was a very important part of the broader conversation about what was going on online. Yeah, I mean, we have like different things we agree with. I think that he was getting like one of the last things I saw that he posted about was about women. Like he talked about women's influence on elections, the way that they vote, and how women who were voting for like the mass illegal immigration. He said they were voting because they were looking for more men options for men, and they were just like voting to let them all in. I'm not sure that that's true, but that was one of his theories. But at least he was asking the woman question. I don't think he was there yet, but he was asking the woman's question. I think the last time I saw him make a post about it, this was like the day before yesterday or something. He did kind of basically blame men for allowing women to become like this, or like in some way, like was like men permitted this. But you know what? I'm not going to attack the guy for that. I'm just saying that he was a part of the conversation. I'm glad that he was doing the work that he did. But I get that some people are just not at that point yet. So, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, rest in peace, Scott Adams. I hope that, if it was Pascal's wager, I hope it works out for you. I don't know. I guess we'll all find out at some point. And, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I saw it coming, but it still wasn't easy. I wasn't quite ready. I was hoping for some reason that he would like, get a lot, because I think the JD Vance or Trump or something like basically like sent some doctors his way, but it was probably too late at that point. So
yeah, there was, I think, a treatment that he got to at least try because of the legislation, the right to try legislation that Trump had passed during his first term. And a lot of people have benefited from that. I know people who have benefited from that, who are actually alive because of that. So it won't work for everybody, but I mean, one of the worst things is losing somebody and knowing that there was an option that you were denied, that you could have had a potential means of treatment, something that they could have tried, and they were refused that option. And it was, due to some stupid reason, like, it causes some kind of damage or may cause some kind of damage that's not as bad as dying. And I've seen that happen too. I have known people that happened to. So it's at least there's a comfort in, there wasn't some pathway that was denied, that he could have tried and possibly survived.
Yeah. Well,
but I think it's important to emphasize, though, that this is a reminder that, don't miss any checks for this, because it's not like turbo cervical cancer, where it's much more likely to happen to you as a result of your own behavior. It just comes out of the blue, and this is another reason why, going back to the November, when we were talking more about prostate cancer. Look at those organizations directly that do support prostate cancer research, and definitely, if you're going to be donating funds for some sort of charity, keep them in mind. Consider sending a few bucks their way, because someday there may be another method of treating it that works better, that comes out of that. So
Yeah. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Just kind of like it was a breaking story, so I threw it in there last minute. Let me take a look at the chat to greet some new people who just showed up, and then we're going to move on to the next story. So, Mr. Blonde, hello. Oikonphobic Misanthrope, hello. Let's see. Murder of Crows, David Lowboy, and I think that's it. Gabriel Phelan Lucas. So, hello. Ian Flane, welcome. All right, so we're going to move on to the next story. Let's talk about George Floyd. All right, so on January 13th, the fatal shooting of Renee Good by ICE agent Jonathan Ross in Minneapolis on January 7th has turned into one of the most divisive pieces of video evidence in recent memory. A true political Rorschach test, which, like, whether intentionally or not. The footage, shot from several angles, shows masked federal agents surrounding Good's vehicle on a residential street. As one officer reaches for the door and gives an order, the car slowly reverses a short distance, then inches forward and begins turning right. Ross, standing off to the left, opens fire with 3 shots, including at least one through the window right after the vehicle passes him. The Trump administration has stood firmly behind the agent, with President Trump and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem insisting Good weaponized her car, ignored repeated commands, and tried to run Ross over, branding her a domestic terrorist. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, on the other hand, has called the official story bullshit, labeling the shooting a reckless abuse of power that ended a life. Reuters, this is one of the sources I used, spoke with longtime Trump voting panelists who watched the same clips and came away convinced the use of deadly force was justified. Every one of them said the officer reasonably feared for his life in what they described as a high-stakes, split-second confrontation. Chad Hill, a nuclear plant supervisor, called the shots 100% correct, since once Good disregarded orders and moved her vehicle towards an agent. It's the same as pointing a gun at someone. Others, including Amanda Taylor and Herman Sims, expressed sympathy for ICE agents operating under constant hostility they attribute to Democratic rhetoric, while a couple noted the final rounds might have crossed the line once the immediate danger appeared to pass. Still, the overall takeaway from this group was clear. Good's decision to keep moving in that pressure cooker moment created a lethal threat. So, I was trying to find a pretty straightforward story, and I did talk about this one with Allison, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to talk about it because everyone's talking about this right now. And I don't want to sort of rehash too much of what I said before, but I will say a couple things about this that's very important to note. This woman and her wife, her partner, they came up there from Missouri, but even though they didn't know people, they had like family in Minnesota, but they came up there specifically to disrupt ICE activities. And they blocked the road with their SUV. They crossed
state lines?
What?
They crossed state lines?
Yeah, they crossed straight. You could say that you could argue they crossed state lines.
State lines,
and they blocked the road,
agitate, huh?
and they were very aggressive. And there's a video of it and everything. Well, aggressive in terms of their rudeness. Like, there was the narrative coming out of the mainstream media on the left was constantly changing. First, they were terrified. Then they showed the video of them being defiant. Then they're like, oh no, it was just a panicked. And then there was, like none of this is sticking. Oh, he shot through the driver's side window. They targeted her. All these things. And my thing is, I'll just tell you what we know for sure. And I think personally it's 100% justified, and I hate that we have to do all this, but I understand that the purpose of this antagonistic behavior, the purpose of this is to create a potential scenario where someone who is a protester or an activist is either hurt or killed, and that becomes the story. The purpose of the antagonism is to create this scenario. Now, Good was a useful idiot, as they often are, that was basically put in a position where she thought she was doing like some kind of Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen shit to save the world from the big bad deporting, Gestapo, whatever the media call them. And eventually someone is going to get hurt because they get in their face and they try to obstruct and all this kind of stuff. And if it is a protester that's hurt, then that becomes the story. And they've been doing this stuff since the 60s. I did this with Allison. I went through every single communist terrorist group that resides in the United States ever since the 1960s, and several examples of them doing this over and over and over. And the only thing is, and I don't know, maybe it's just the luck of the dice, but even though they're trying to make this into George Floyd 2.0, which is why I call this story George Floyd, it doesn't have the same effect. And I think part of it is for a number of reasons, but one of them is that it's in the wintertime, so there's less of an incentive to go out and riot and destroy the city. And I think the other thing is that people in general are really sick of this stuff, and this is just not as effective, but they are playing up the fact that she's a woman. I think they're describing her as a woman and a poet and a mother, even though she lost custody of her children and of two of her children anyway, which says something about her since she didn't get custody, which is kind of wild. But yeah, I mean, there's a big old narrative around this, and they're definitely trying to weaponize her being a woman as a means to sort of create this sympathy narrative against ICE. And the last thing I'll say about this before I give the microphone up, and I'm just telling you this straight, point blank, if she killed this man, if she killed him, you would not know about this story. Like, it would not be a story at all, because the only people who had evidence at first were the activists themselves. The only guy who had counter evidence was the guy who got hit. So if she killed him, we wouldn't be talking about this at all. That's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, so yeah, I give you guys the floor, and if I think of something else to add on, I'll add it on at the end.
I can see both sides of this one, not to sit on the fence or anything, or to do the both sides thing. It's not. I'm not defending anyone in this scenario. I think it was a confluence of bad decisions, but only the very last of those bad decisions was on the part of the officer. From every angle I've seen, it looks like he had plenty of time and space to get out of the way of the car. Even if it was colliding with him, it was at very low speed, and it was turning right when he was on the left. There was probably no need for him to use deadly force. Having said that, there was no need for her to suddenly drive away. There was no need for her lesbian cohort to shout, "Drive, baby, drive, drive, drive." And there was no need for her to disobey the direct order to get out of the car. And there was no need for her to be there in the first place. And there's no need for the media to pursue this vigilante campaign against ICE that led her to be there in the first place. So yes, this was a tragic death, and it's all the more tragic given how preventable it was. But to say that it falls entirely at the feet of the officer is ridiculous. You shouldn't be obstructing the duties of federal agents. Renee Good should have known better. That lesbian agitator of hers should have known better. And the media should have known better than to rile people up against federal agents who are performing their necessary duties, their mandated duties. The hysterical fuckers in the media are just as responsible for this death as the officer who pulled the trigger. Like, I don't like the FBI, right? I don't trust them. I think they probably do more harm than good, but I would not in a million years tell ordinary people to go out and fuck with the FBI, to seek them out and park your car in front of them in the vague hope that this will obstruct them in some way. I wouldn't even call them Nazis so as to insinuate that you'd be on the right side of history if you fuck with them. Because if I did that, I would be leading these people to their deaths. It's like daring someone to flick a tiger's testicles. Like, I'm all for free speech, right? If you want to tell people to flick a tiger's testicles, that shouldn't be illegal. If anyone's stupid enough to flick a tiger's testicles just because some dickhead told them to, well, they deserve their Darwin Award. But I think the dickhead who told them to do that is a dickhead. And I don't know why any media company would continue to employ the kind of dickhead who would tell stupid people en masse that you'll be doing God's work if you get out there and flick as many tiger testicles as possible, let alone staff their entire institution with such irresponsible dickheads. It just seems, I don't know, unethical. So, yeah, to reiterate, I think it was wrong for this tiger to kill the stupid bitch who flicked his testicles, because he's not a tiger. He's a human being, and he's supposed to have some impulse control. But I think it's a testament to the restraint of ICE in general that to date, only one testicle flicker has been killed, despite the widespread testicle flicking. And to drive it home, please, people, for the love of God, do not flick tigers' testicles. Stay away from the feds, whether it's the FBI or the CIA or ICE. Stay as far away as you possibly can, whether they're just doing their jobs properly or they're doing some nefarious shit like entrapping some poor spurgs into a false flag operation. Whatever it is, stay the fuck away. You're not going to save the day by throwing your body between them and your targets. You're just going to get fucking shot. Just stay home. Stay home, yell on the internet about stuff, and thank your lucky stars you live in a country where you don't get arrested for yelling stuff on the internet. We'll get into that in the next story. Or is it the story after? Whatever it is. But God bless America. Some of y'all are fucking retarded, but God bless you nevertheless. And I'll see you soon, hopefully.
So I'm gonna push back a little on the idea that the officer was in the wrong at all. And here are my reasons. All right. We will start with the fact that you don't get to resist arrest. And she was in the process of getting arrested. When they ask you to get out of the vehicle, that's the first step to getting arrested. And Americans know that. Anybody that pretends that they thought that she was just trying to get out of there in obedience to being told to get out of there is full of shit. Right? That's it's known. It's a known fact that when an officer gives you an order to get out of your vehicle, he is on the pathway to arresting you, and running away is not the way to change it. Officers are authorized to use deadly force when their lives are in danger. And there have been numerous stories and accounts that have come out in the last 4 or 5 years, in the last 10 years, actually, demonstrating the use of a vehicle as a deadly weapon by people in circumstances like this. Not just in protest situations and stuff like that, but officers getting hit because an individual doesn't want to get arrested. And what this woman was doing was not innocent when she started moving forward after the officers were in front of her car. She was charging them like an angry bull charging, an opponent. And she wasn't just driving some little dinky vehicle either. I mean, besides the fact that we all know we measure mass when we're looking at that equation. How much force are you getting hit with when you get hit by a car? It's force equals mass times acceleration. Her mass is measured in the weight of her 2-ton vehicle. This wasn't some dinky little Yugo, right? She was driving an actual SUV. I believe the model it's an SUV, Honda Pilot SUV, which weighs upwards of 4,500 pounds. So this isn't, this minor, like she wasn't trying to just run away on foot. And she was running at an officer in a huge device that just the weight of it, she didn't have to hit him at 50 miles an hour to hurt him. And my perspective on this partly comes from an experience from when I was in high school. My church youth group went to listen to a guy who was paralyzed partially and severely injured in a number of ways in a car accident that occurred at 25 miles an hour. He was inside a vehicle, so he didn't even take the full force of the impact, and he went through absolute hell with medical bills. I have a friend who was hit by a vehicle at 25 miles an hour as a kid and almost died. It just unbelievable experience for him and his whole family. And my family experienced this multiple times. With my mom, my grandma, and I were in a car accident at much faster speed, but we were inside a vehicle when we were hit, and I saw my mom almost die. And that's being inside the vehicle. That's a situation where at least you have some protection. And I've personally witnessed an accident as a kid between a vehicle, a small vehicle, and a motorcycle, and the motorcyclist came out of that in pieces. And so this idea that the cop had no reason to panic, be terrified for his life, to respond as if deadly force was being used against him in the moment, because this woman wasn't moving at highway speed or something, is bullshit. I know people don't realize it, but in a moment like that, when there is violence taking place, and it is a violent act to charge at somebody with a vehicle of any size, even a motorcycle, you can hurt somebody by ramming them with a motorcycle. This woman was driving a 2-ton SUV, more than 2 tons, right? It's not something that you get to sit there and go, gosh, I wonder if this person is actually trying to hurt me. Well, I'll just wait and see what happens. You don't get that opportunity. Right? And the fact that this thing weighs that much, is that large, can push you underneath itself by the force of knocking you down and run you over and put that weight on top of you and crush you to death. You don't get an opportunity to say, well, I'll just wait and see what happens. and you don't get an opportunity to jump out of the way. Right? And this idea that he could have not gone in front of her car. No, that was his job. He was doing what he is supposed to do. This woman did what women do all the time. Oh, I'm going to poke the bear. Oh, I'm going to push the boundaries just as far as I can. I'm going to engage in just as much violence as I possibly can get away with. And then as soon as she starts to see there a little bit of pushback, a little bit of repercussions, she's the victim. Right? This is no different than a woman who pushes a guy into a corner and slaps the shit out of him with a frying pan and threatens to poison him, threatens to kill him, threatens to have her new boyfriend come and beat him up, and keeps haranguing at him until he pushes past her to get away and then complains that she's a domestic violence victim. The only difference is this woman pushed it so far with the wrong guy that she died. And in my opinion, she deserved what she got. She asked for this. She went there to ask for this. And she got what she asked for. And I don't feel sorry for her at all. Maybe her family, not the lady that was in the car with her, because that woman was encouraging her to do the dumbest thing she could possibly do. That woman did not love her. If you love someone, you don't encourage them to charge somebody with a gun in your vehicle.
She wasn't in the car with her, by the way. She was standing by the side of the car.
Well, I don't care where she was. If you love somebody, you don't tell them to not cooperate with the cops, because it is a known fact that risks getting shot.
Yeah, she yelled, drive, baby, drive, drive,
right.
drive. You can see it on the, and yeah, that's
not love. That's defiance.
There was a dog
her.
in the back. There was a dog in the back of the car, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't have much love for dogs, but I felt sorry for that fucking dog. Imagine.
Yeah, I don't think he had any or she, I don't know whether male or female, had any idea what was going on. But the thing is, I have zero sympathy for her. And I have zero sympathy for the woman that yelled, drive, baby, drive. I have sympathy for her 3 kids whose mother was so stupid that she did something that she knew for a fact put her at risk of death for nothing, because they don't stop people from getting arrested. They're not changing anything by doing this. They're just agitating. So yeah. There was no compliance taking place there. There was no this poor woman was obeying the cops and she got killed. This was a deliberate act of violence, and she paid for it. And I have no sympathy. No sympathy at all for her. I have a lot of sympathy for the cop and his family. And I hope everything turns out okay for them. I know people are doxing him and attacking not just him, but his innocent family. And I hope that everyone involved in that gets caught and faces the full brunt of the law. This isn't like a situation where somebody is having a seizure and the cops mistreat them, or somebody doesn't hear commands because they're deaf or doesn't understand the situation. This was deliberate, and you can see it on her face. This was deliberate. This woman wasn't scared. She was defiant. So I'm calling bullshit. But yeah, if you love somebody and they're in an encounter with the cops, you tell them to follow the cops' orders, and it'll get sorted out later. You'll get a good lawyer, and you'll deal with the situation in a way that doesn't put them in any danger, because it never works out when you start getting aggressive with the cops, or when you start trying to run away after the cops have told you to get out of your vehicle. And when your cops tell you to get out of the vehicle or they tell you to put your hands behind your back, it doesn't matter what they told you before. Those orders are gone. You took too long, you pushed back too hard, you messed around too much, and now it is too late. So, if they start the process of arrest, go through with it. And if they're wrong, you let your lawyer deal with that, not the county coroner. And in this situation, they were right. What they're doing is right, and what they ended up having to do to her was right. I have
All
no
right.
sympathy.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like an example of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I mean, it's tragic, but at the same time, like I said, this person was and I'm not saying this to be insulting, it's just the way that I describe it. She was a useful idiot for people who really don't give a shit about her. She thinks that she's taking up a cause to fight for like the oppressed or the underserved or something. Maybe putting her maternal instincts to work in a toxic way. I don't know. But yeah, this is something that did not have to happen. And it wasn't just like a stupid decision on her part that day. There was a series of stupid decisions that led to this point. And I don't think the ICE officer did anything wrong at all. I think that it would just like, first of all, we let in a bunch of illegals like that to where this was necessary. This deportation operation was necessary. So that's one. This woman was probably like, from what I remember, I don't know if you guys know this, but her children went to a very progressive school that taught about privilege. So I'm gonna presume that she was like 100% on board with all of that stuff, and she probably bought into the idea that as a white woman, she had to be like the martyr, the savior of everybody else. And the ironic thing about it is that the people she claims to want to save don't give a shit about her. There were no Somalis rioting. There were no BLM protests after her death. They were literally like mad at her. Black Lives Matter activists were angry because people were saying Renee Good, say her name, and they were like, "Don't say, that's not your word, that's ours," right? So it didn't even pan out. So that was just like, but again, this is what the virus does. This is the mind virus at work.
Yep.
So I mean, it's a shame, but I don't know what else to say about it. I was going to mention, yeah, she went to this progressive school. So, but yeah, this is why she's a useful idiot. And again, I'm not saying that to be mean. It's just the way that you describe it. So, anyway,
I will say something else
all right.
because people are down on ICE in the stupid chat. And here's what I'll point out, because I've actually got neighbors that are immigrants here, and some of them have been keeping their heads down more than others, but ICE hasn't taken most of the people in my apartment complex that they could. The people that they did come for, one of those guys was raping animals in his apartment. Right, another one had MS-13 markings. He put MS-13 markings up on the building that he lived in, even though other people living in that building were not part of that gang and didn't want anything to do with that. So he was marking it as territory. My apartment complex got marked as MS-13 territory, and so I don't have a whole lot of sympathy either for this idea that, oh, they shouldn't be going in and taking. Yes, they should. Yes, they absolutely should. Those people that they took out of here needed to go, and the people that are still here are glad they are gone. Even the ones that were worried about being deported themselves are glad that the MS-13 gang member and the animal raper are gone. So don't give me that bullshit about ICE being the bad guys, because they're not.
Yeah. Well, there could just be trolling in the vertical, but people are.
Well, no, there's a couple of dipshits in there.
Yeah. Well, that's just welcome to
Yep. Like
Like
I
the-
said, it's the stupid chat.
Yeah, welcome to the vertical chat. So
And I'm not taking a lick of a lecture from the people who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death when
yeah, exactly.
all he was doing was fucking talking to people. And everyone's done this fucking bit, but yeah.
Oh, by the way, you guys remember the story of the 10-year-old that had to have the abortion in Indiana because she couldn't get in Ohio? The father of her baby turned out to be an illegal immigrant too.
Oh.
Yep.
That's not convenient. So
No,
anyway.
that's why that story disappeared.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're laughing at this so that it doesn't overcome us.
Yes,
Yep.
we have to laugh at all the absurdity. That's right. Okay, so anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one. We're gonna move on to the next story. So I got some things to read out. First off, I got a super chat from Albatross earlier for $5, and he says she probably didn't plan to hurt him, but I'd bet she wouldn't care if she did hurt someone in the process. Again, she thought she was Katniss Everdeen or, Princess Leia or something, and she thought she was in the midst of a heroic narrative. She probably bit off more than she could chew, but again, a series of bad decisions. One of them was going up here to protest these people without actually, really understanding what's going on. That's, a lot of where this comes from. But, yes, I don't care what her intentions are. Because if she had killed him, no one would be saying, well, she probably didn't mean it. It doesn't matter. She did it. She could have complied earlier. She could have not gone up there. She could have, been at home with her kids and instead of trying to be a superhero. And I'm sorry. And her partner, was everybody's sympathetic for her because she was sitting on the curb looking despondent, oh, I asked her to come up here. I got her to do this because she was the one who said drive baby drive, and also probably brought her partner into this whole mess. And now everybody's like, well, maybe she's gonna question her motives or whatever. And then maybe she'll realize that she believes all this woke shit and it's just destroying and it's based on lies. No, you know why? No, it's not gonna happen. You know why? Because the media and all of those other people, those agitators and those communists that were involved with all this, they're all going to shower her and love bomb her with support and confirm her over and over again that everything she did was right and that ICE are the bad guys, and she's probably just going to become more radicalized. That's what I'm guessing is going to happen.
I'm going to push back on that too. It's going to happen because she's a woman.
Well, yeah,
right?
But that's part of it for sure.
She will not change her mind. She will double down. She will play victim, and yeah, the attention might contribute a little bit, but even if the entire media, the entire country, everyone everywhere pushed back on her, she would still play victim. She would still adhere to these beliefs because she's a woman and she can't be wrong.
No, it's definitely going to be a big part of it as well. But anyway, thanks for the super chat, Albatross. And then I got a super chow from Meredith G, who gives us $5 and says, HBR News number 535. The assessment of reasonableness of Agent Ross's action in the ICE shooting is, would they be reasonable for an officer of the law? She put Ross in danger, her wife in danger, who was trying to get into the car, the other agents, and all the other people in the neighborhood in danger. Keep in mind that this was a residential neighborhood where people tend to walk to work. There were 50 years of court precedent that shows that shooting was justified, and when people say that the recent SCOTUS rule says the ICE agent wasn't justified, is reading Barnes v. Felix incorrectly because they are leaving out key details. By the way, if you want to know what Ross was thinking, he had to testify in the other incident where he was dragged by a vehicle 6 months ago. Yes, and that's another thing I was going to mention is the guy who shot her was himself dragged, I think it was 30 yards or 50 yards, and had to get 30 stitches by an illegal immigrant who was, I think, a child molester or something that he was chasing down. So when this woman started, and these people, these ICE agents, they've been attacked thousands of times. Like there's been like, I think it's like a 1,400% increase in attacks on ICE officers this year because
with injuries.
Yes, with injuries, because ICE has always existed, but for some reason, when Trump is in office, ICE is like a whole different beast. And that's because of the media and the activists and the Mark Ruffalos of the world that are convincing and terrifying the shit out of these useful idiots into thinking that when these guys come into town, heads are going to roll literally, and they're going to be firing squads and all kinds of Schindler's List type shit, and that's not happening. They're there because we voted for this. That's what we voted for. So,
Yep.
get out of the way and give us a hand. We just want the criminal illegals first, at least. So, anyway. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next story. But thank you, Meredith. Appreciate the super chow. Let me give shout outs to the people that are watching real quick. So, JC55, hello. TexCal, what's up? Ed Z, welcome to the stream. Nova fan, Chris Angel, Feld Genderami, sorry, I'm butchering that, I'm sure. And Jim Smith, hello. Feld Gender Marie says deport all illegals and Karens. I don't know where we'd send Karens, maybe Lesbos. Blake's Pipes. And let me see, Art Fours. All right, if I miss anybody, I apologize. There's a lot of names. So, all right, moving on to the next story. We're going to talk about Canada, Australia, and the UK. So UK Prime Minister Kier Starmer has initiated talks with Canada and Australia regarding a potential coordinated response to Elon Musk's social media platform X amid controversy over its AI tool Grok generating explicit deepfake images, put in quotes, of women and children without consent, which, again, I haven't seen any evidence of the children part, but we'll get into that later. Downing Street officials have described these discussions as aiming to send a strong collective message to Musk, with the UK threatening enforcement under its Online Safety Act, including fines or an effective nationwide ban if X fails to adequately restrict or remove the problematic feature. Starmer has condemned the content as disgraceful, disgusting, and unlawful, while urging the regulator Ofcom to use all available powers. Australia shares concerns, with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese calling the material completely abhorrent. Though no firm commitment to a ban has been confirmed from either country, the UK views joint action by these allies as more impactful and resistant to potential backlash. However, the push for a unified ban has faced setbacks, particularly from Canada, which publicly distanced itself from an outright prohibition, with officials stating they are not currently considering blocking X, despite shared worries about unregulated AI and deepfakes. Elon Musk has fiercely rejected the criticism as a pretext for censorship, accusing the UK government of fascism and suppressing free speech, even reposting mocking AI-generated images of Starmer. Conservative and right-leaning voices, including US Republican figures like Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, have framed the discussions as a political war against Musk and free expression, with threats of US sanctions against the UK if a ban proceeds. Media coverage remains polarized, with outlets like GB News and Breitbart highlighting it as an authoritarian overreach, while others emphasize the harm from non-consensual imagery and the need for platform accountability. As of mid-January 2026, no ban has been implemented, and talks appear exploratory rather than conclusive. And I just want to add, before we get into this more, I am on X, and what I did notice, there was this trend, and that's why I created these images here. There was this trend of women posting thirst trap photos of themselves and then asking Grok to essentially put them in bikinis. And this is all over, and it's mostly just women posting thirst trap photos and then either getting Grok to do it for them, or they will bait people on X and say, well, I hope nobody turns this into a bikini picture. And then, of course, people do that. But these are adult women, and it's all over the place. And of course, there were a number of other women also on X that were condemning this and blaming the men for the content existing. So I think that that's what I've seen. I haven't seen anything involving minors. I don't think minors should be on X anyways, so I don't think that that's relevant, but that's what I've seen. It's mostly been women doing this to each other and to themselves on purpose.
You know what?
So
it doesn't even matter. I don't care if every man on X is posting bikini pictures of every woman on X. It doesn't matter. They're fake. They're fake images. It's just an image, right? And in the countries where they're talking about doing this censorship, they are allowing literal child rapists to live in their country and operate in their country, and they are doing nothing about it. They know it's happening, and they don't care about that. They don't care about children being victimized. They don't care about the violence that is taking place in their countries toward their own people, but they're going to cry about bikini pictures. Bull fucking shit. This is a fake issue, and people need to see it.
Yeah,
for
but
what
Hannah,
it is.
it's being used as a pretext for censorship. That's
Yes,
ultimately
it
what
is.
it's about.
Yes, it is. It is and people need to call bullshit on that. And they need to point out, if you really give a flying fuck about victims of sexual aggression, then do something about the people who are physically doing that to people in your country. Fuck Twitter. Fuck social media. Who cares? Who cares if somebody posts something on social media that you don't like? Right? It might be distasteful. You might find it ridiculous or embarrassing or upsetting or whatever. If you don't touch the poop, it will decompose and go away. And if you're really upset about people posting fake images of children like that, don't go after the social media. Go after the individuals that are posting that. There's definitely something wrong with them if they're sexualizing real children or sexualizing the image of children. Right? That's fine. Go investigate them and see if they're actually doing anything to real children. And if they are, act accordingly. It's better to know that they're doing that and be able to do something about it than it is to go after social media and say, oh, you can't post. But if these countries ban that social media, it isn't going to be the people that are creating these images and upsetting some women, because really they're not doing this because of children. They're doing this because of women. It's not those guys that are going to be upset at the loss of their social media. It's all of the women in the countries that it's banned in. They're the ones that are going to be upset, because for women who are not necessarily gamers, social media is their achievement system, their likes, their number of views, their whatever influence they think they have, whatever feedback they think they're getting. They are playing that the same way that you might play a fighting game. They're playing it against each other the same way that you might play a fighting game, and they're playing it against their own image and their own self-image the way that you might play a fantasy role-play game. So it's not something that women aren't calling for this. Politicians are. It's not something that the women in their countries are going to be happy about. But in terms of the politics, this idea that women are in any way victimized, or children are being victimized by this, it is 100% bullshit. And if you live in one of these countries, you should be pushing back. You should be contacting your representatives, your politicians, and start pushing back on this idea that, well, they can solve anything at all by going after social media, while they completely ignore violence against their own people in their own countries, sexual and otherwise, by large groups of people that is going completely unaddressed, that they don't care about. And in fact, when people criticize that violence, when people complain about that violence, in some instances, they're getting arrested. They're getting treated like they're in the wrong for objecting to it. And like I have, again, no sympathy for these politicians, and they deserve to be ridiculed and mocked for even suggesting that that this is an initiative that they need to do when they're allowing that level of violence to take place in their countries. When they're allowing, I mean, for fuck's sake, in the UK you actually have rape gangs that, if people complain about them, if people complain about what they're doing, and try to protect their children from them, they get in trouble for that, instead of the country doing something about the actual violence. So yeah, again, I'm calling bullshit. This is all theater. It's all fake, and it's all a means of getting you outraged or getting you talking about whether or not they're justified in this censorship effort. Like it needed some sort of justification. They were going to do this no matter what. All right, they're just making up an excuse, and the pretense of concern for their citizens is completely destroyed. Any credibility on it is completely destroyed by looking at the way they respond to actual crimes against their citizens.
Yep, you all went ahead and said all the things I was going to say, but I'm going to retread that ground. Let's get one thing out of the way first. Grok is not undressing women. It is drawing pictures of what it thinks women would look like in bikinis. Okay, just like people have been using their imagination to draw lewd pictures since the dawn of fucking time. Imagination is not reality, people, no matter how realistically it might be rendered. Drawing a picture of a woman getting punched is not punching a woman. Writing a story about a woman getting sexually debauched is not sexually debauching a woman. If it was, you'd have to go ahead and rip the spine out of $1 billion industry of naughty books that women like to read. But as usual, there is no push whatsoever to crack down on the kind of depraved, degenerate smut that appeals mainly to women. There is only ever a crackdown on whatever platforms are not yet controlled by the feminist empire. For fuck's sake, we went through this in Gamergate over 10 fucking years ago. There are brain dead morons out there who can't tell the difference between fiction and reality. And we've spent half a lifetime trying to defend these industries from these fucking lunatics. So it's really quite disappointing to hear people who should know better coming out and saying it's unacceptable that Grok is undressing women. Pardon. It's disgusting that video games are being violent against women. It's irredeemable that anyone would align a bunch of pixels in a way that women find icky. Just go fuck yourself. Jesus wept. It's all the more absurd for anyone to espouse these absurdities, knowing full well that this censorship has exactly nothing to do with women's dignity or safety. Grok isn't doing anything that ChatGPT doesn't do, or that any other AI doesn't do. Grok isn't doing anything that artists don't do. The only difference is that Grok is on Twitter, and far left governments don't like Twitter because it's one of the only platforms remaining that doesn't censor everything to the right of Stalin. It's like that cartoon, the one where the guy is buying a box labeled "Control of Internet Speech," and the cashier is going, "How would you like this wrapped? Anti-terrorism or protect kids?" It's more relevant now than it ever was, except it neglected to portray the third option, the most ubiquitous option, of wrapping it in endlessly capitulate to the infinite draconian neurosis of women. And yeah, on that note, women and girls are getting raped and murdered by grooming gangs in every major city. The more foreign criminals you flood into the country, the more it happens. Are we going to do anything about that? I mean, men and boys are also getting raped and murdered as well, but whatever. We're not expecting you to give a shit about that. But you seem to be ostensibly concerned with the dignity of women. And I would think the greatest blight on women's dignity would be all the fucking rapes and murders. No? Can we at least launch an inquiry into that shit? No? Not interested. It's not happening. The grooming gangs are just a figment of your imagination. What we need to be addressing is people drawing depictions of women from their imagination, which is literally a figment of imagination. That's where we are now. Reality is not real, and non-reality is hyper-real. Whatever it takes to rid the world of any opposition to the fucking Globo Homo project. I feel like I should be saying my goodbyes on Twitter because it will probably be banned in the UK. It wouldn't be without precedent. Gab is now banned in the UK. BitChute is now banned in the UK, even though it's a British company. There is nothing these bastards won't do. They have the reality stone. They can manipulate what we see and hear from top to bottom, and they will use that power to attain the rest of the stones. And make no mistake, when they have all of the stones, they won't just kill half of us. They will kill all of us. They will even kill themselves. Because they're psychos. They are psychotic demons. They're not even interested in ruling over the ashes. They just want to reduce everything to ashes. They don't care what happens after that. They want the world to be nothing. They're like a badly programmed AI. They've been programmed to achieve the dignity and safety of women, and there is nothing safer and more dignified than nothing. If there was no Earth, no world, no universe, then there would be nothing to interrupt the infinite sleep of the women who no longer exist. It will just be darkness, pure, unadulterated darkness everywhere and forever. Perfect safety, perfect dignity. That's where we're headed. The people are worried about what AI is going to do, but that's nothing compared with what badly programmed humans like Kier Starmer are going to do to us and are already doing to us. They would rather plunge us into an endless void than face any risk whatsoever of women getting an icky feeling for any reason whatsoever. And for those of you who think we need to bring back shame as though it ever went away, okay, fine, here you go. Shame on you. When you should know better, when you've made it your raison d'etre to know better, shame on you for this Grok is undressing women bullshit. Shame on you for defecting to the evil shit you once fought. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. You were supposed to bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness. You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. I I think I'll leave it there. There isn't even any high ground. We're all just limbless losers flailing in the lava, waiting to die. I hope you're happy. I hope I'm happy. I can't even fucking tell anymore. And so I drink.
Okay. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I did get a Rumble rant from Nobafan. Did I miss another one? I feel like there was another one. No, that was it. Nobafan21 gives us $1 and says, despite all the people leaving the left, the leftists and enlightened centrists who still give charity to the far left even right now are proof that facts and logic will be useless for them. Thank you, Nobafan. Appreciate it. I'm just gonna move on. I could speak on that, but it'll make the show longer than it needs to be. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Yes, thank you for the Rumble rant rather, and let us move on to the next story. This is our final story. But let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Let me see if there's any new faces in here. Nobody Rexes. He says 4chan holding on strong. Nobody. Welcome to the chat. I see you have a Clippy. That's cool. Very based. Let's see. I think that's it. Quantum Cat, Night Motorcyclist, Mabub Noor says, why do women hate being called females, but men don't mind being called males? Oh, come on, dude. You know it's just control. They don't really hate it. They just want to control the way men talk to them. That's all.
It's because men are rational and women are not. That's the answer.
Yeah, that's all. But I mean, worrying about them caring about that is just kind of silly. Just say it anyways.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So moving on to the No, wait. I missed one. Hold on. There is another story here. I'm going to find my image, as I did have an image for this. Let me see. Where is it? Is this it? Nope, that's that one. Well, let me just read this one, okay? So, Trump to foreign organizations, you're fired. In a surprise to the international community, President Trump announced last week that a number of foreign organizations would no longer fund over 60 foreign organizations. What? This is Mike J. That might be right. We're not going to be funding over 60 foreign organizations. That's what I mean. The White House spoke on the decision stating, quote, these withdrawals will end American taxpayer funding and involvement in entities that advance globalist agendas over U.S. priorities or that address important issues inefficiently or ineffectively, such that U.S. taxpayer dollars are best allocated in other ways to support the relevant missions. Some of these organizations include the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the Renewable Energy Policy Network for the 21st Century, Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, UN Collaborative Program on Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation in Developing Countries, UN Entity for Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Women, and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change.
And yes, that is UN Women, by the way.
Yes.
We are talking about that on HBR Talk. We started last week and we'll be talking about it some more this week because I'm so happy about this.
We don't get many white pills here on Honey Badger Radio, but this is one. It's 60 of them, evidently. In many ways, it can be a mistake to look for the middle ground. Sometimes things are just plain wrong and there is no meeting in the middle, but sometimes there is no option but to meet in the middle. And in my opinion, there is a middle to be met when it comes to collectivism. A family is a collective and it should be treated as such. A village, a town, a city is a collective and it should be treated as such. A country is a collective and it should be treated as such. Where I go beyond there is where I lose some of my libertarian friends, and that's fine. I hope we can at least agree that a family should be a collective. I would hope no one is so ideological as to believe that even family members should be atomized. But what I hope we can agree upon is that an entire globe, the only globe we have, should not be treated as a political collective. That is where I draw the line. Countries should not be funding globalism or whatever some satanic institution has decreed should be a global morality. And not just because it's functionally impossible to get every country to contribute equally to a globalist project. All it takes is one country to be crossing its fingers behind its back, and they'll go ahead and fuck everyone over, like China or a number of other fucking countries. I mean, even not just in practice, but even in principle, even if every country did act in good faith and could actually bring everything together into one glorious whole, even that would not be a desirable outcome, because humanity thrives on competition. Take sport as a microcosmic metaphor. If the entire globe was one country, there would be no such thing as the Olympics, because there wouldn't be any teams, there wouldn't be any games. Everyone loves games. Games are fun. Games are how children learn the dynamic of dealing with the real world. And you cannot have games if there are no conflicts between players. We're already seeing the degradation of games, of team sports, where everyone gets a participation trophy, no matter how much they suck at their craft or how much they excel at it. It ruins everything. It ruins the whole point of building each other up by contesting our skills against the skills of another. If everyone is the same, then there is no point in achieving excellence. Indeed, there's no such thing as excellence. So, yes, it's a good thing that the Trump administration is no longer funding these institutions whose function is to globalize and equalize and homogenize everything. Such things only serve to stunt the pursuit of excellence. Equality sounds like a nice idea, but it's not. It is anathema to the pursuit of excellence. We didn't get where we are today by punishing the winners while we carried the losers on our shoulders. Nobody did. Not in social terms and not in evolutionary terms. The notion of everybodyism is a failed experiment. I know it sounds harsh, but not everybody is suited for a place in the future of the human race. Some people just fucking suck, and those people don't pass on their genes. Some nations just suck, and those nations don't pass on their cultures. Some people are pandas. They can't be bothered putting the effort in. They'd rather just sit there and eat bamboo while the rest of the bears get out there and eat other animals. And I say this as someone who likes to depict himself as a panda. You can see it right there. That's right. The thing talking is me. That's the panda. And that's fine, because I'm an evil panda. I'm here to get into your head. I'm here to invade your thoughts. Therein, I will have far greater influence than I would if I simply bumped uglies. Don't do what I do, folks, and don't do what I say. I only implore you to listen to what I say and dismiss it if you will. Good luck out there, whatever you are.
Yup. Some things that I will point out, because I know that there's going to be the dumbest kind of pushback that there usually is when government organizations, agencies, non-government organizations, and so on start getting defunded or getting their funding cut, etc. Right? When you look at this list, you're going to see things. If you go look to the big list, the whole list that tells all of the different United Nations and non-United Nations government organizations and world government organizations that the U.S. has stopped funding. They're gonna be things that their name makes them look really benevolent, and their name makes it look like, oh, we've defunded the people who do good in the world organization, but that's why they use names like that instead of using a name that describes what they actually do. UN Women, for instance, did not take the name People for the Promotion of Abortion all over the world, but that is one of their primary functions. They didn't take the name People for the Promotion of Male Demonizing Narratives all over the world, but that's another one of their primary functions. Those are the two biggest things they do: demonize men and talk women into killing their babies. They also promote circumcision, which circumcision of men, not, of course, circumcision of women. So that's definitely not a women's issue. There is nothing at all about male circumcision that women have a right to demand. That women have some right to say, we want you to do this for us, and expect you to take them seriously. It's not a women's issue. Even when feminists like to talk about the false research that promotes the idea that it's more effective to be circumcised to protect yourself against STIs than it is to wear condoms, or maybe not fuck around in the first place, but be in maybe a monogamous relationship or closed relationship. That still isn't enough to make it a women's issue. Even if you believe all of that shit, it still isn't enough to make it a women's issue. Just like feminists want to say that abortion isn't a men's issue, even though it is about babies. It's not about women's bodies. It's about whether or not it is okay to kill babies because they haven't been born yet. Right. So these organizations, if you see this organization is about preserving trees, it's a guarantee that behind the front of preserving trees, the organization does something else. Maybe promoting communism, maybe promoting an interest in world government ownership of parts of other people's countries. Right? Maybe it's some other bullshit, elimination of religion, or particular religions. Something along those lines. Control over a resource in a way that allows some businesses to do better financially than others. Money laundering. There's a lot of money that gets laundered through UN Women. One of the things the UN has done is fund multiple organizations that are already getting funded by the U.S. AIDS infection, or that were already getting funded by the U.S. AIDS infection that's taken place all over the world. And many of those organizations, again, they'll have titles that say that they do, make the impression that they do some great, wonderful thing in the locations where they operate. But in all actuality, it's mostly money laundering. And the part that isn't money laundering involves doing bad things, demonizing men and boys, convincing women and girls to use and exploit men and boys, to engage in stupid behavior, screw around like $3 whores, instead of caring what happens to their bodies before they get some sort of an infection or become pregnant, and then damage themselves by handling that situation, whichever happens to them or both, in the stupidest possible manner, and do harm to their children by handling those circumstances in the worst possible manner. And that's what these organizations really are. So when you see people saying, "Oh, they took the money away from the women and children of the world," remember two things. First of all, the claim that because it's in the name, the organization does what the name makes it look like it does is almost always complete bullshit. And even when it's only partial bullshit, the part that's not bullshit is usually bad. It's worse than shit. And the other thing is, whose money is it? Right? What they're saying is they're taking Uncle Sam's ability to reach into your pocket and rip you off and give it to these organizations under the pretense of helping the poor and downtrodden of the world, even though they really don't. So don't let anybody tell you that this is a bad thing, because it's not. It is ending the payment of a shitload of scam artists that do harm in the world in your name, with your money, without your consent.
Well said. All right. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm here for that. All of it. Let's pull out. And I think that more and more has been happening. But again, I'm not going to get into this now. But I did see something with the Federal Reserve and interest rates and ending usury that I'm kind of all for. But maybe that's not really. We'll just move on to the next one because we're a little over time. So. Let me see if there's any super chats or super chats before I move on. I don't see anything there or there or there, so we're just going to take on the last story. Okay, last story here. Get them while they're young. Recent reports from January 2026 highlight that children as young as 3 years old are participating in programs at nursery and primary schools across London to help them reject elements of toxic masculinity as part of efforts to curb youth violence, misogyny, and the influence of harmful online figures like, guess who? Andrew Tate. These people have done more for his reputation than he could ever hope for. The initiative centers on the Think Equal program, a social and emotional learning curriculum, implemented in thousands of UK classrooms, including over 9,000 children in London receiving lessons up to 3 times a week. At schools like St. Saviour's...
Over 9,000?
Over 9,000, that's right. Oh, wait, maybe this story's not real. No, I'm kidding. At schools like Saviour's in Poplar, East London, young children aged 3 to 6 engage in activities focused on respect, kindness, emotional regulation, empathy, understanding how actions affect others, and speaking up about discomfort, such as unwanted hugs from 3-year-olds. The program's founder, Leslie Udwin, emphasizes building strong emotional foundations early, stating it's, quote, too late after 6 years old, end quote, to prevent children from turning to negative role models like gang leaders or controversial influencers in the absence of positive guidance. Research linked to the program suggests participants are up to 82% less likely to engage in criminal behavior by avoiding rigid, harmful gender stereotypes. Remember, this says suggests, and we just started the program, so there's absolutely no fucking way of knowing if this is actually the case, okay? It forms part of a broader push amid concerns over rising misogyny influenced by online content, with the program expanding across more councils in 2026. While supporters view it as essential preventative education for healthy relationships and inclusion, critics, including some online discussions, argue that labeling behaviors as toxic masculinity at such a young age risks overreaching or demonizing boys, though the curriculum itself focuses on universal skills like empathy and boundary setting rather than direct confrontation of gender terms with toddlers, and yet they're calling it toxic masculinity. This reflects wider UK government strategies to address violence against women and girls through early intervention in education.
I'm going to sandwich you on this, Mike. I'm just going to say one thing, and then you can say your piece, and then I'll say the rest of my piece. And that is, misogyny isn't real. So don't accept anything that is being sold to you on the idea of reducing misogyny. How can you reduce something that doesn't exist?
I haven't written anything down about this because it was the 5th story and I didn't have much time. But there's a lot to be said that our government is more worried about 6-year-old misogynists than they are about 40-something-year-old misandrists or 50-something-year-old misandrists, about the people who have been in charge of our country for like 2 generations. But they don't have a word for it because they don't know what the fuck misandry is. They don't know what the fuck oikophobia is. And so they're not at all interested in addressing the adults, the very fucking grown adults who are only interested in shitting on men and boys. They're far more interested in the 6-year-olds, even the fucking 3-year-olds. They said 3 to 6, right? They're more interested,
yes, 3 to 6,
in addressing the 3-year-old misogynists than they are in addressing. I know everyone likes to blame the boomers for everything, but it's not just boomers who are in charge at this point. It's mainly Gen Xers and largely millennials and even the Gen X, the Gen Zers, the fucking Zoomers are getting involved at this point. And nobody cares about the misogynists in 4 fucking generations of this shit. Because as far as they're concerned, there's no such thing as misandry. Like, I wouldn't go so far as Hannah to say that misogyny doesn't exist. Hannah's a bit more extreme than I am. I think theoretically misogyny is possible. I think 99% of the things diagnosed as misogyny are just people going, maybe all this misandry is a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, I think it is theoretically possible for some people to be irrationally hateful of women. But I don't know how you would. I don't know how you would divide that from the people who are just like, we've lived our entire lives in this misandric tyranny, and that is what is being diagnosed as misogyny. Like people who are like, I don't think I like all this misandry. That's what misogyny means. Damn close to 100% of the time, it's just people going, I don't. We can see how nakedly you hate men, and we're not into that. And that's what misogyny means. Almost every time people mean it, every time people say it. And I don't. Again, I'm going into this without a fucking script, so I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. And I want to white people. I want to white pill you people, but I don't know how, because it keeps getting worse. With each of these stories, it just keeps like, and it's gonna go ahead in the after show when we get into this fucking pathways thing. Like, I can't. I don't know how to tell you that it's going to get better, because it keeps getting worse. Like the average person in the UK is, it's not just boomers. It's the average person doesn't know what misandry is. They don't know what oikophobia is. All they can see is misogyny and xenophobia. Like, no matter what happens, no matter how god awful it gets for straight white males, people can't figure out how to solve this other than by saying, oh, this is just misogyny and xenophobia. And that's all they can do. And it's not going to change when reform gets in. It's not going to change when fucking Nigel Farage gets in. There's just going to be a Farage wave, just like there was a Boris wave. It's just going to get worse and worse. And I wish I could say something that would give people hope. I wish I had a wisp of advice that would bring us out of this descent into the abyss, but I can't, and I don't know what else I can say about that. As they say, if you can't say something nice, you shouldn't say something at all. But I can't think of anything nice to say. I can't think of anything hopeful to say. This is why I'm so determined to escape to the USA, because honestly, I'm like Doctor Strange, like examining every possibility, hoping that one of them will bring us out of this abyss. But I can't even find one of them. Like, it's to quote Kurt Vonnegut, it's going to get unimaginably worse, and it's never ever going to get better. And that's I'm sorry. I wish I could say something positive. I wish I could white pill you. Like, I don't black pill you because I want to. I black pill you because it's all I can do. Because I've searched every possibility for one atom of a white pill, and I can't find one. It's just we can no longer present ourselves as something you can aspire to. We can only present ourselves as a terrible warning as to what's going to happen to your country if you allow all this shit to happen. And yeah, I think we're doomed. I think we're probably doomed, and that's why I very much hope that y'all in the USA can embrace me with open arms, and I hope that one day when when the UK finally falls, we can come back and regain this wasteland that our country became. I hope that we can come back and reclaim this wasteland, as much like we left Dunkirk. I mean, it wasn't ideal that that when the Nazis descended on Dunkirk, we had to flee across the ocean. That was the right thing to do tactically, but eventually we went back across the sea to Normandy to take it back over. Retreat was the right thing to do, because eventually we would be able to come back and take it back over. And I think that's our only option, and that's why I'm like, I got to get out of this place if it's the last thing we ever do. Because, girl, there's a better life for me and you. But and if anyone disagrees, that's fine. If you all want to stay here and just do whatever you can to prevent what's happening from happening, then best of luck to you. But as much as I would like to give you hope, I can't muster it. We're fucked. Europe in general is fucked, but no one's more fucked than the UK. And yeah, I'm bringing my hope somewhere else. I'm bringing my hope to the United States. And at some point, I hope to bring that hope back to my homeland. Once we've got our forces together, Britain's going to become Britistan. I don't know how we can change that. So I'm going to come to the USA and join whatever forces are left over, and then we'll come back, and then we'll invade Britistan, and we'll learn our lesson, hopefully.
This is one of the things that's been repeated throughout history in various ways, and it's in particular, and today it's about indoctrinating 3-year-olds. And I say indoctrination for a reason, right? If you have a set of arguments that you want the public to adopt, if your arguments are shit, just absolute shit, and what you're saying is demonstrably false, makes no sense, and is going to alienate people from you, you don't try to sell it to adults because they're going to see through it. You don't try to sell it to teenagers because they're going to see through it. You don't try to sell it to older elementary school kids like preteens because they're going to see through it. You go for the youngest kids you possibly can. You go to the age where the kids aren't competent to see through it. And you indoctrinate them with it, right? And this is what anti-theists say about early childhood Sunday school in churches and stuff like that, right? They accuse churches of indoctrinating children. Well, most anti-theists were raised in households where the adults were not atheists. They were of some religion or another. And they went through that indoctrination growing up, that supposed indoctrination, and yet they rejected it as adults. Now, that's with something that isn't toxic, right? The idea that people make mistakes and you can come back from those mistakes, and that there's an afterlife and it can be beautiful, and if you accept a relationship with your creator through a sacrifice you didn't have to make, you can have access to that beautiful afterlife, and all you have to do is care, love other people, and love your creator, and try to be the best person you can be as a result of that love. Like that's not really a big ask, honestly. And none of that is toxic. Now, there have obviously been various controversies and various bad behaviors from people in positions of authority in religious institutions and all of that. None of that is a condemnation of the beliefs that the religion preaches. It is a condemnation of human foibles, right? But the bottom line is, even the easiest thing to accept, even something that is attractive, even something that feels good to believe and can be very uniting in a group of people, can be rejected in adulthood by individuals who decide that they don't like things that are done by people who claim to be part of it, right? So the idea that this indoctrination of these children is necessarily going to result in an adult population that is incapable of resisting compliance with authoritarianism, like, it's wrong. People are going to figure things out. The smarter kids will, as they get older, start questioning things. They'll get in trouble for it, and they might get beaten down for it, and they'll still question it, right? And the smartest kids will end up resisting. But in the meantime, the people that are doing this have told you exactly who they are. They are people who are willing to attack the self-image, the identity of little boys in order to force them to be compliant. And this is something that y'all need to be very much aware of. They don't have to do this to girls. They only have to do this to boys. And the reason they don't have to do it to girls, but they have to do it to boys, is that girls have a level of instinctive compliance with stronger authority, more masculine authority. Women and girls survive better when they do what the men and boys who are protecting them tell them to do than they do when they buck that authority and do stupid shit. Right? There's more survivability in allowing someone to protect you than there is in saying, no, I'm going to put myself at the highest level of risk possible. Fuck you. Right? Boys and men, on the other hand, they are more likely to be to question stupid ideas. They're more likely to question things, even if they come from authority, as long as they look at it and it doesn't make sense. Because they have more of that instinctive, even though they're risk takers, they have more of that instinctive need to sort out good ideas from bad ideas, not only on behalf of themselves, but on behalf of their families. And so they have to have that trained out of them if an authoritarian regime is going to last. They have to have that trained out of them if dictatorship is going to be put in place, if an authoritarian regime is going to suppress that which makes men and boys more successful in the world than women and girls. And that's what this is really about. And mind you, these people who are molesting the minds of little boys with this program are the same people who are threatening to ban forms of communication throughout all of Europe because they allow people to slightly piss off women with something that isn't real and doesn't do anything to them. Right? Here they are breaking down the literal identity of little boys and imposing guilt for things that they have never done and might never do on their own. That they are teaching them that their natural impulses are something worse, something evil, something bitter, and dangerous. Right? Like, oh, you have a natural impulse to wrestle. Well, if people say boys will be boys, they're not talking about that. They're talking about you raping girls. They'll be introducing ideas into these kids' minds that would never have occurred to them on their own. And yeah, when I don't use the words lightly, they are molesting the minds of little boys. And there's no, I'm not going to say there's no white pill in this. What I will say is that the size of this black pill is huge. And the white pill is one that is a slow-acting pill. It's kind of like if you dump a bunch of pill bottles on the table, you'll see pills of different sizes. This is a horse pill. This is a black horse pill. The white pill is what we read about UN Women and other organizations like it being defunded because the promotion of ideas like this and the funding for ideas like this comes from these world government organizations, right? And that white pill is going to take some time to manifest, where there is less world unity in acceptance of the idea that it's masculine to have toxic characteristics, and that those toxic characteristics are inherently natural to men and boys and need to be trained out of them. And when I say misogyny isn't real, I'm going to make a clear statement on that. You think about what it means to hate a person. Like if you look up the definition of hatred, it gives you a whole list of different what does hate mean, like, and it gives you a definition that's more applicable of towards, well, I hate that kind of car, or I hate to do this thing, or I'm disinclined, out of politeness, or I feel like I need to apologize for this thing. Oh, I hate to tell you, but it's not the same when we're talking about hatred toward people. Hatred toward people involves intense hostility. It involves wishing ill. It involves wanting to avoid any interaction with, wanting to be away, celebrating bad things happening to the person you hate. It's not a simple, I don't believe what this person is saying, or I don't like to associate with this. When you hate someone, it is an intensive emotion. It is it's not just an aversion, right? It's an ill will wishing. It's a desire to do harm. It's hostility. There's not a whole lot of hostility toward women. Even men who don't actively care about being with women, even men who are more interested in other men, who are gay, or who have decided to be celibate and celebrate fraternity but don't necessarily involve themselves with women, even that really doesn't come anywhere near what hatred actually is. If men are not actively seeking to do harm to women, it is bullshit to say that they hate them, right? If they're interacting with them on a regular basis and not taking extraordinary measures to avoid that, it's bullshit to say that they hate them. Like, as in the dumb chat, we have, you can hate sweets and not want to trash sweets. Yes, but you can't hate sweets and occasionally choose to dabble anyway. Oh, I think I'll go get a donut. I hate sweets, but I just feel like having a donut today. And you don't make sweets an integral part of your life, right? People call men misogynists even if they're married, even if they work with women very well and enjoy their work, even if they have female friends, over the stupidest things. A woman says something and you don't automatically believe her. Well, it's because she's a woman, your failure to believe her is misogyny. A woman does something bad and you criticize the behavior. Well, because she's a woman, that criticism counts as misogyny. You disagree that there should be a special right just for women to eliminate human beings, human organisms, that have been conceived inside that woman's body. Well, because the parent that you're disagreeing with is a woman, it's misogyny. No, it's not hate. It's bullshit to call it hate. It's a thought terminating cliche. And you can't find examples of any large group of men, any belief system, anything where men are completely, totally isolating themselves from women because they are hostile toward women, and for no other reason, right? Not because they object to women's behavior toward men, or not because they have a religious reason, but just open hostility for no justified cause. So I don't believe in misogyny. In fact, I would say the opposite. I would say that misogyny is a term used by women and gynocentrists as a thought terminating cliche anytime any man or other women, I've been called a misogynist, fails to be sufficiently gynocentric to satisfy the sensibilities of gynocentrists. Right? It isn't real. It isn't a phenomenon that is happening in the world. It is not, like, if you can find me an actual misogynist, I'll be shocked. If you can find me 10, I will be in shock. Right? And I know people are going to be like, oh, Islam. No, Islam is gynocentric. It isn't misogynist. It's when the reason for all of the restrictions on women are to protect women, that's not misogynistic. That's gynocentric. And even MGTOW, I wouldn't call them misogynistic. They are criticizing women's behavior and they are defending themselves from it. That's not misogynistic. All right, that's rational. That's a rational response to an irrational situation. PUAs that even if they call women stupid and manipulatable, their whole lives are wrapped up in gaining attention for women. It's not very hostile to try to seek out someone's attention and try to enjoy time with them and interaction with them, right? And of course, people will call someone like Andrew Tate a misogynist because he points out that if someone is easily manipulated, they are stupid. And that's more likely to happen with women than with men. But it's not false. You can view someone as stupid if they're easily manipulated. And it is true that women are more easily manipulated than men in a lot of ways. It's one of the reasons why women have a habit of voting for the destruction of their own civilization. Right? Locker room talk, not misogynistic. Right? Criticism of women's sexual behavior, slut shaming, not misogynistic. Right? Recognition that women endanger themselves, and when they endanger themselves, when they take risks, that creates a greater likelihood of suffering a consequence, not misogynistic. Even if you use terminology like asking for it, still not misogynistic. So, I just don't believe in misogyny. I haven't seen any evidence of it anywhere. I haven't met a misogynist in my entire life. And you would think, because I'm pretty outspoken, I'm pretty mouthy, you would think I would meet at least one. But nope. So the only purpose for what's going on here is indoctrination. The only purpose for this thing, this initiative, is indoctrination. It is to keep boys from having that part of their nature manifest that questions stupid ideas and authoritarian abuses. That's what this is about. And like I said, the white pill is very small, very long acting, and it's going to take a long time. It's like going back to the source of poison in flowing water and administering a cure. The poison that's already flowed downstream has to work its way out. Has to be eliminated through the water cycle in order for the water to be purified again. Society is like that as well. And this overarching authoritarianism happened after the Great Plague. Things like going so far as to say who could do what kind of work, where and when, and so on. And it'll happen again because that's the naturally occurring response of authoritarians to dealing with all sorts of social ills is to become more authoritarian. But throughout our history in the world, the pendulum has gone back and forth between being, having that level of micromanagement as much as humanly possible at the time, and swinging back. And yeah, Night Motorcyclist nails it right there. After the Black Death, women took over society and the wealth. And there was not a king, there was a queen when the Poor Laws took effect, and they started dictating who could do what kind of work and when and where, and introduced the earliest incarnation that I could find in English common law of what looks like the 2000 in the United States Contract for America welfare reform. So yeah, that's it. Yes, it's a huge black pill. Yes, it's hard to see a white pill in this, but it's because it's very small and it's going to take a long time to take effect. And yes, this is mind rape. What's being done to these boys, and it's being done because they can't convince anybody else, even if they have a lot of compliance. They can't get the adults to fully agree. It's being done because they're facing resistance and they don't know what else to do. It's being done because they're weak leaders.
All right. I got a.
Well, you would say that, Hannah. You're a man. Reset the clock. 0 days.
0 days and some, but I can't call you a bitch. So.
All right. So I'm gonna read the super chow, and then we're gonna head into the patron show. So I did. Well, it was a super chow from Richard Bier that went through much earlier. He gives us $5 and says, from the sun that never sits on the British Empire to universal cuck chair is our human right, and we need migrants to assemble the flat pack ones and clean our toilets. I suspect we are witnessing the decline and fall of the Roman Empire if the Romans had social media. All right, thank you for that. We're gonna go now into the patron show, and we're gonna look at this. I'm not gonna add anything to that because we're really over, and this is a long sausage, and I want to go to bed at some point in this century. So we're gonna go into the patron show. We're gonna check out this Pathways game. If you guys want to join us, you have to become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and starting a monthly subscription. That's feedthebadger.com/subscribe. This should be educational. Let's just put it that way. So feel free to join us. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. And I want to thank everyone for joining us on the show. And I want to thank Mike and Hannah for their commentary. Appreciate you guys. So with that said, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.